Hey, this is my review of the WTC 2025. It is Tuesday morning after the weekend of the WTC, and I haven't done a PowerPoint for this one, but basically I'm going to go over the pack and the missions, the organization of the event. I'm going to show you the results, and I'll talk about the main meta takeaways that I sort of have after this event. I'll also talk about my team, how we did, what the team was like, and my own games a little bit. And then I'll talk to you about next year, what is happening. So, let's get into it. The pack and the missions for this year's WTC was 1100 points, which I think is the highest you should go for such a tournament. I really like that there's a little bit of limitation. You have to make choices. You have to make clever choices. If you go to 1250, you can take all your choice every single time, and that does something to the meta, right? So I like the 1100 point games. It also means that you can finish games on time. Almost all games of the WTC finished within the allotted time limit, which was 2.5 hours. People were really quick. Even that one guy on my team, Corey, who brought a 34 orderized list, finished all his games on time. I personally also finished all my games with an hour and a half, half an hour to spare. So it was perfectly fine if you know how to play quickly. It's not always about high order dice counts. It's not always that makes you slow, right? So the pack itself, it also had a limitation on the force organization where you could only take 2 of anything that wasn't infantry, which, did limit the madness somewhat. There was still some madness because the transport slot was in a rifle platoon, and you could apparently take doubles of that or more, which meant that there was some things that really got spammed out. The Komsomolets for the finish had their last ride of glory, and it was glorious, let me tell you. Damn, the finish were good. But that is all over and done with the recent FAQ. I think the next thing that Warlord Games potentially needs to look at are the 250/4 prototypes, which also got spammed out. I fought an army which had 7 of them, I think, which was ridiculous. That's 7 Panzer Ones, basically, which is difficult to deal with. Let me say that much. Anywho, so the pack itself was really well written. It was written mostly by Dan Lane and Spurley and Pete from the Juggernauts. And they did an amazing job. Spurley and Dan were there on the day itself. Pete was unfortunately detained by his wife, but the 2 other guys were there. Dan ran as the head TO. Spurley did all the organizational bits. Really well done. Spurley also beforehand had a hand in doing a lot of the statistics for the event. Really well done as well. I love this bit. I'm all about the meta stuff. I like that. So the organization itself was amazingly well run. Dave, the EO for the event, of course, supplied the terrain. He ran around, gave a few speeches, and did things behind the scenes, and wasn't really involved in the tournament itself. Most of the tournament, he ran around patting people on the back and saying, "How are you enjoying this?" And that was his job for the weekend. So the event itself was held at Doubletree by Hilton in Sheffield, which is a hotel in the outskirts of Sheffield. It was a perfect location in many respects. You had a hotel, so you were at the venue itself, which is nice. Maybe not necessary, in some locations, but it really did help. It does make it a little bit more expensive because you're in a hotel, right? And you can't go really inexpensive on that. You're still buying your hotel room, which it was most of the expense for the event. And but it also meant that you had a bar, you had a restaurant. If you didn't want to do anything but play your games and go and sleep, you had everything you needed for that at the venue itself. 200 meters down the road, there was a pub. There was 2 supermarkets. One of them a food market. I mean, it was in many respects a really, really good location. There was one caveat to that, and that was it was in Sheffield, which to get to Sheffield, you have to land in an airport in another English town, right? So we landed in Manchester, and then had a transfer service bring us to Sheffield to the hotel. And that was a long drive through the Peak District of Derbyshire, which is beautiful countryside, but oh man, are there so many ups and downs and steep turns, and I got so car sick, and I know a lot of my team did as well, because it was almost driving like through the Alps or something. Man, did we not enjoy that car ride. But we did enjoy the scenery, and it was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Anywho, so that was my one caveat. As for the missions of the event, I have one quibble, and that was the we played Demolition as the first mission. I don't think Demolition is suitable for tournament play. I think more than 60% of the games ended in a draw. And that's not really what you want. It makes everything too random. You want to be able to win games, right? You want to be able to have good players win their games. And some did. But most people drew. I drew. Although I did have a chance. I was very, very close to that victory, but I'll tell you about it a little later. But I think it's just Demolition, you have one objective. The enemy needs to get to it to win. So you block it. You create a small castle around it. And most people did. So the enemy couldn't get to it. And then you try and throw the rest of your army against his objective and try to break through. Maybe. And most people didn't. Which, that's how that turned out. I don't think that is a suitable mission for a tournament. Because you want results. Or if you have it, or missions that have one objective, you should have multiple ways to score, right? If you had a secondary way to score, you could still win the mission just by doing something else. I think my Commander's Compendium in that respect has done a really good job of some of that, making sure that all missions can be scored in a couple of ways, or at least are not like you can easily ensure a draw in this mission. Anywho, so I hope that for next year they take a look at the Commander's Compendium, at the missions maybe. We shall see. The results themselves were really interesting. I've already posted them on this channel. But basically, Spain did not win this year. Germany beat them. And the funniest thing about, well, I don't know if it's funny, not for the people involved, but Manuel, the German team captain from all the last WTCs and World Open Wars, had switched teams because he's Spanish, right? But he lives in Germany. So he's played for Germany, and now he had gone and played for Spain this year. And the year that Germany wins is the year that he has left the team. Oh, man, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that one. Right. So Spain does not even make the podium. They take 4th place. In Third place was my team. We take third place, USA 2. And I had actually, when I did my rankings, I didn't want to tell you guys because it sounds awful, but I had actually ranked our lists as being really good. So just on lists, I thought we had a chance of maybe taking a podium, and we did. I'm really happy about that because I wasn't captaining the team, right? Alan Tibbetts was, and Alan Tibbetts has been to the WTC before, but he's not one of the veteran captains, right? So really well done on him. In second place, we have Australia 1, which for me was a huge surprise because on lists I had not ranked them. But I need to admit something to you guys. My list ranking is still crap. Almost. I need to adjust my perception of mixed bag lists. The Australians all had mixed bags, and they had a very clever team strategy. They knew that Aaron Russell was their star player, right? So what they did was everyone else on that team they were shielding Aaron. They were making sure that he got the matchups so that he could win, which meant that the rest of them were perfectly willing to just play for draws. That is an amazing strategy. God damn it, did I wish that we had come up with that one. Australia, you bastards. That was so well done. So well done. And it brought them to second place. Aaron himself did amazingly well. He tabled 3 opponents. He won all his games. I think that places him as the best individual player. And the team itself were just amazingly cool guys. They were such gentlemen, and they had traveled so far to do this. I mean, to go home with the medal, they must be feeling really proud of themselves, and they should. And in first place was Germany, captained by Thomas Wurdemann. Amazingly well done, Thomas. And his NCO, I guess you'd call him Felix, also star player of that team, for me at least. Damn, he's a good player. So the Germans really did well. And I'll do an interview with, I have an agreement with Felix at one point that he and I are going to sit down and have a chat for you guys so that we can learn a little bit about the process that the team went through and he went through. What it takes to get the gold at such an event here. So those were the results. I've already posted the full results. Denmark, by the way, not captained by me because I hadn't qualified, so I was hiring myself out as a mercenary to the Americans, right? But Denmark came 10th, middle of the pack, which they were really happy about because last year they lost. So really well done on the Danish captain, Lars, and well fought on all the Danish players as well, Anders Bjarke and Jonathan Martin. Amazing guys. It was really nice traveling with them, and well done. What are my meta takeaways, though, for the WTC? I think there are 2 things that are very clear in your list building, especially for open or open-ish tables. Mechanized is king. Most armies that had enough mechanized forces, half tracks, like the 250/4s as I talked about, or the M3 half tracks, all of that really works. I also think the mixed bag, I really need to reevaluate my thoughts on mixed bag. It's difficult for me because when I play against mixed bag armies, I usually win. So it's really difficult for me to readjust my mindset about that. But the Australians came second with mostly mixed bag lists, right? So there is something there. The lists should be reevaluated and should be thought about again. Maybe going too extreme here at the start of version 3 is not a good idea. And the mixed bag is actually, it gives you the tools that you need when the meta is so unsettled. And it is unsettled. There was a lot of very different army builds at the WTC, very different armies. Not different nations though. Most people, as I've said, were bringing the old favorites, the Brits, the Finnish, the Germans, the Soviets, and the Hungarians, because Hungarians could really work well in some of the missions, right? So, but the way that people built them, so different. There is something to be said also for having a star player on your team, like a very experienced player who will win most of his games. Most of the teams who ended up in that top bracket had star players, one or more, who would absolutely go out and win almost all their games or most of their games, right? And that really helps in a team tournament, that you have that player with a list that they're very familiar with and know how to run and can do well with. So, for instance, myself, I did not lose a game. I had 2 draws, one of them in demolition, where, and then another one where the matchup, the list and the table was really against me, so I was playing for a draw. And I get it. But all the other games were wins, right? Aaron, who won all his games, table 3 opponents, right? For the Germans, I think Felix actually did individually best, but we'll ask him once we get to him. So, like, there's 1 or 2 star players, right? And that really works. That team strategy of shielding your star player, playing for draws. As soon as I had figured out that was what the Australians were doing, I ran around to my team and said, okay, some of us may have to play for draws. Who think they can win? And we did. And it didn't always work out, but most of the time it did. So shielding the star player and then playing for draws, that is a clever tactic. We also need to talk about multi-rocket launchers. The Germans had all brought multi-rocket launchers in most of their lists. There was one list that didn't have it, and that was one of the lists that they changed out, I think. So they had multi-rocket launchers in all their lists. Potentially we need to look at that. Though Germany too had also done that, and they didn't do terribly well. So, and most other teams did not really bring multi-rocket launchers in that way, right? So there were a couple of other multi-launchers, but not like every single player having a multi-launcher. So there is something in the list building there. The multi-rocket launchers may have been nerfed, but may not have been nerfed enough. And for this tournament, you could only bring 2 of them, right? So maybe we need to nerf them a little more. My Commander's Compendium only allows you 1 of them, for instance. There's also very clear indication that having enough armored fighting vehicles, not necessarily tanks, but enough armored fighting vehicles will give you results. So almost all the best lists, the best individually placed players had so much armor. So the German lists, for instance, they had a multi-rocket launcher, all of them, but they also had 5 to 9 armored fighting vehicles, tanks and transports that can punch, right? So that, I think, is a clear indication of the meta that we are in right now, the way the meta is going right now. You either need that 5 to 9 armored fighting vehicles or something that can survive it or something that can beat it. That's what you need to win. So that was my meta takeaways. Now I'm going to go and talk about my team itself. I was on America 2 out of Maine. And this isn't from that one. I also got a very nice cop. This was given to me by one of the American players as well. The Fighting 52nd Wargaming Club Historical Society. He's a member of that. So I was hanging out with the Americans most of the weekend, which was nice. They're really nice guys. I've never met an American I didn't really like at all. So that was amazing. But it did break the rules, and I got scolded for that. I'm sorry, Dave. Because you're not actually allowed to go and play for a different nation than one you're either living in or you have a passport of that nation. So I promised next year I'm back to Denmark, which is a safe promise. But on my team, Alan Tippett was the leader. He had, of course, been to the WTC before. He was the captain. He asked all the questions, and he had brought a German army and sometimes shifted that out with the Hungarians. He had made both of those lists. Then we had Corey, who was perhaps our second star player. Corey was playing our Finnish list, 34 order dice, and he was a machine with that list, right? He was such a machine, and he had a plan for every single game. He knew exactly how to win it or avoid losing it, and most of his plan, most of the time, revolved around him pinning out units just massively, because he had, I don't remember, a gazillion of the consommelettes. He actually gave them away to his opponents after the games were finished, because he's never going to use them again, because now they're 4 times the price, right? So he gave them away. Here, sorry, I beat you. Have a consommolette, which was nice of him. And one game he drew, I think, because he was forced to play with the Hungarians. The rest of the team were like, I think you should maybe play with Hungarians for this one. It's skill points, and you have 34 order dice. He was like, no, it's a bad idea, and it was. He was right, I think. We should have let him play with his Finns, because he drew. And then we had Ken. Ken had also been to the WTC before. He's like this huge, rather quiet bear of a man with a large beard, and he was such a good chap. He was playing his Soviets most of the time, and he was really, like, every time he had a question or was in doubt about it, he would ask me or Alan or Corey and just get a bit of advice, and then he would quietly and calmly sit down and play his opponent. And most of the time he was playing for a draw, because he was being matched up against very hard opponents. He was just such a champ about it. It was amazing. And then, of course, me, I was playing my Brits. I do have regrets about the list. I was playing, I think I needed 1 or 2 more armored fighting vehicles in the list. The Gurkhas did well. The artillery observers did okay-ish. They did what they're supposed to, which was waste my opponent's time, but they really didn't kill that much over that tournament. I think I killed 3 units and 1 of my own Gurkha units, which sucked. So I'm okay with the artillery observers being nerfed now, which it looks like they're being in the new Armies of Britain book. So that was my team. Overall, we drew 2 of our team matches and we won the rest of them, which, puts us in third place, not second place. Right, there we go. Third place, not second place. We wanted the second place, and we were on equal points with the Australians, but Aaron tabling 3 of his opponents meant that he had 10 kills more than we did. 10. So close. So they take second place. My own games were really, really nice. I've made short video updates on them. And the first one was we were playing Germany, and I was matched up against Timo. Germany 2, by the way. Timo, their captain, their star player, I guess you'd say. And he was playing his Italians. And we both shielded our objective, and I saw that he hadn't shielded it quite as much as I had, because I had a ring of my units pretty far out from the objective, because I wanted to sort of be able to use terrain to shield my units. But he deployed a little bit more broadly than I did, which gave me a little bit of a chance. Not much of one, but a little bit. So at the end of turn 1, 2, I start running Gurkha units towards the center of the table to maybe try and get to him. And he immediately caught on to what was happening and then drove all his armored fighting vehicles towards me and started shooting. By the end of turn 5, I have 1 Gurkha unit that's pushed up. I can get to the objective, but only if I get the first order dice. And at that point, I'm way ahead on kills, right? We finished the game 10-5 in my favor on kills, right? So I'm way ahead in the bag. I should potentially get that first order dice. If I get that, I can charge one of his infantry units that are shielding his objective and then bounce onto his objective for the win. I draw 7 of his order dice out the bag before I get one of mine. End of game. That's it. Good game, dude. Timo, that was an amazing end to our game. I freaking love that. But damn, did I want the win. So that was my first game, right? And then I went on to have 2 more games on day 1. We played Warlord and we played England 4, who, by the way, also did really well. I beat both of my opponents there. Michael Garrick and I had a rematch. We had played each other at the last WTC, or was it World Open War? We had played each other at one of these tournaments, and I beat him then. I beat him this time around as well. He had Soviets, body armored, so he was on objectives, but he tried to keep me away, but he couldn't. So I kept on just contest. I had taken the objectives, but he then moved up and was on it, but he couldn't push me off them, so he couldn't take them, which was brilliant. So I win both of those matches. Against Warlord, I was up against, was it Ricky, I think? And we were playing sectors, and he had very little chance. He didn't have enough anti-tank to stop my tank from just rolling into his sector. So that was day 1. Then we go into day 2. And we are faced off against Australia. And who was it that I played? I forget the names. Anywho, I was in a Brit-on-Brit fight. We both had double artillery observers, so many bombardments landing, but I quite quickly saw that he had spread out a bit. So I brought my guys in, and I had outflanked my armor. But I started shooting at his artillery observer, and fortunately his artillery bombardments were delayed, so he didn't actually get to fire twice, because I zeroed in with a light mortar on one observer, and I started shooting the other observer. So he went down quite a lot to keep them alive. So he fired 3 bombardments. I fired 4. My bombardments killed a couple of his units. It killed a Staghound AA, and it killed 1 more unit. Can't remember what it was. Maybe an officer or something. And it gave him a bunch of pins, right? And then my outflankers came in all the way in his zones, because we were in quarters, right? And you could outflank along the short edges. That was the ruling from the TO. So I came into his quarter in his back lines with my armor and just started shooting units and killing them. And then I pushed 1 Gurkha unit into that flank as well. I ran all the way to that flank and started charging stuff. And that was game. That was it. He couldn't come back from that. But the team drew with the Australians, which I think Alan and the US too are pretty happy about. I would have wanted the win, and I really wanted to play Aaron, but it didn't happen. Unfortunately, the matchups didn't put us pitches together, which I guess would be the most optimized version for the Australians, because Aaron wins his game and I win mine, and the rest were draws, so it was a team draw. If I could have beaten Aaron, that would have given us second place. Well, but then we would have had to fight for first place, and that was a tough fight anyway. So, second game of that day, who were we playing? My brain is... We were playing... No, America 4 was the final game. I forget who we played. Ooh, we were playing the Polish. Right. So timely objectives. We're playing the Polish, and I get matched up with Noak. And he had a list with 4 armor, 8 all-round, or armor 9 Panzer 3 tanks. And I knew I couldn't hurt those tanks no matter what I did. But he has so little infantry, and we were playing timely objectives, so I was like, I am going to win this game. I know I'm going to win this game, but he'll kill my army. And that's exactly what happened, right? I place my infiltrators on the objectives. I push 1 unit of Gurkhas onto the objectives, and I just hunker down and wait for him to kill me. And he does, but he couldn't get his infantry onto the objectives. No way he could do that, because his infantry was all shirkers. If he came up, I would run 1 unit of Gurkha up and kill them. I win 15-2 on points, but he kills most of my army. I had 3 units left at the end, just hunkering down, going down, trying to survive. That's it. The rest of my army got killed, and the most funny thing was we both outflanked. Because it was fog of war, right? So we brought our armor in behind each other, and we were just shooting point blank range, and we couldn't kill each other. It took 2 or 3 turns before the armor actually started falling apart. We were rolling so many ones. Either we were rolling 1s to hit or 1s to penetrate, right? Which that was dumb. We were both like screaming and shouting, and mostly Noak, because he really needed those kills and he didn't get them. But yeah. So and then the final game was against USA 4, which is Jackson's team. You've seen Jackson featured on this channel before. I was paired up against August, their star player, their team captain, and we were playing on a very open table, which he had all the prototypes. His whole army was in half tracks. Everything was a half track. And then the infantry was just crap with pistols, right? So the cheapest unit he could possibly buy, and a company commander to have everything snap to and go at once. I was never going to win that match. On an open table, I was going to get shot to pieces because my army was built to kill infantry and he didn't have any, right? What I did do, though, was I outflanked my armor in one flank. I didn't outflank it. I drove up one flank and tried to sort of get into his side and take a few casualties, and that worked out, but too slowly. And on the other flank, he had driven a Flampanzer up a half track, and I just charged it because you can't shoot me because I've got blood curling charge. So I charged it and killed it. And then I started charging into his half tracks with a couple of Gurkhas, but it took too long. I couldn't pull back. So he wins by 1 point, but that's not enough for a win. So it turned into a draw. And I think Corey won his match and the rest were draws, which means that we win that match. And that is what gave us the damn trophy. So that was my matches as well. Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. Thank you, Dave, for running it again. Thank you, Dan, for being the TO. You did an amazing job. Love you to bits. Thank you, Spurley, for all of your hard work. I am going to go and interview Dave about the organization and Felix about Germany 1 and see what we can learn from the winners, right? A winner's interview at some point. And then I can here at the end announce that next year the WTC is coming to Denmark. So come and join us, boys. Come and join us. We'll make sure you have a really good time. Lars Andreasen, the Danish captain for the Danish team this year, is going to help run it and TO it. I think Topher of the Juggernauts and England 1, which is, I've been asked to say this, was not the Jugger team, although it did have both Topher and Alex, which is, he's sort of a Jugger, on their team. So Topher, I think, is going to be the head TO. And I think, it'll just be amazing. Bring all your teams. We can host so many teams, and I think it's going to be in Aalborg, where we have a large venue with 2 stadium halls where we can have both Middle Earth, Star Wars Legion, and Bold Action at one time, one event. So it will be an amazing event. Come and join us. We hope to see both the Swedes, the Norwegians back again. Those were amazing guys. Norwegians, really cool. Martin and Svein. We see. So, yeah, that's it from me. Talk to you. Bye.